Hi guys, good morning. Good morning. Um, Today I'm going to talk about what do you do when the brook dries up. In the in First Kings 17, it was talks about Ahab, and Ahab was a wicked king, and Elijah comes up and tells the king, has an audience with the king. Now imagine this. This is where this guy is at. He is in the presence of the king one day. Okay. And hey, I it's hard for me to fathom the mysteries of God. And this is quite effective on a Sunday morning, but it's hard for me to fathom the mysteries of God and the mysteries of infinite intelligence, the universe. For me, it's the Lord Jesus Christ, and uh, He's got a sense of humor. He's got a sense of humor, but I've always been gravitated towards messages like this that here's your brook dried up. You know, so many times in the Bible, you see people moving from different places to the next. Why didn't they stay in the same spot? what Why did God move them? And if we follow the leading of God, is He moving us? Is He wanting to take us to a different place, a different, or are we to just stay in the same spot for our entire life? And that could be physically, same house for 40 years. That can be the same job for 40 years. That can be to the same relationship for 40 years. That can be the same. And I'm not talking about I'm talking about where the things in our life are just the same. Same stuff, different day. It doesn't change. There's no going up or down. It is just the same. The same flat out every day. So we stay in the same spots. Same house, same job, same car, same life, same everything. And there are times that God moves you and moves His people through signs. And my question this morning, on this Sunday morning of the new year, is, are you sucking sand? Is God trying to get you to move from a spot that He had you? See, you have to understand, here is Elijah, and he is in the presence of the king. I mean, he's got an audience with the King of Kings at this time, and his name was Ahab. And Ahab was a one wicked king, so evil in fact that the scripture says that Ahab did more to provoke the Lord, the God of Israel, to anger than did all the kings of Israel before him. He was one dark king. So enter scene one. God sent the prophet Elijah to confront the king. So he's in the front of a king. He's in the presence of a king. He goes from the king's presence, though. Then God instructed the prophet to get away from there and hide by the brook Cherith. Hide. Now, I don't know about you, but there is something about this that actually I don't get. I don't get the hiding. I don't get the hide out. Well, sometimes to prepare yourself and to prepare yourself for the next move, I mean, there's an ebb and a flow. There's a yin and a yang. There's a push and a pull. There is an up and there's a down. There's a left and there's a right. There is an equal and opposite to everything. There is, if it's good, it's got to be really bad. If it's, there are times of testing and times of struggle and times of, there's a time and a season and a purpose for everything under heaven. So he tells him to get away from him, and God would take care of him via ravens that would feed him bread and meat morning and evening. Now, I don't know about you, but this sounds like bird feed to me. This ravens are going to feed you. This is not the old country buffet. This is not the big old. We used to have a place here in Iowa called the Royal Fork. I called it the Royal Pork. I mean, you could sit 400 people in this restaurant. I mean, it was huge, and they had buffet tables all over the place, and it was everything that you could think of under the sun. And for me, it was heaven on earth. But this doesn't sound like the Royal Fork buffet. This does not sound remotely like anything I would want to be in. I'm telling you, God has got a sense of humor. Now, why did he say, go and hide? I'll feed you. I'll take care of you. Because, you know, I've often wondered why in different places in our life, especially if we claim to know God, if we claim to have a faith in God and our God is directing the course of our life. If you want to make God laugh, show him your plans one day. Because he's going to interrupt him anyway. And he interrupted Elijah. Here he is in the presence of the king. And then all of a sudden he said, I want you to go hide out. I want you to go hide out next to the brook. The ravens will feed you morning and night. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never drank from a brook. But I've heard so many things that you get. I don't know how they purified this water. I don't know if it was better then or not, but drinking from a mud puddle and drinking from a brook and drinking and getting fed by birds morning and night. To me, that just seems like hell. Um, so anyway, but why? Well, he didn't want Elijah to get comfortable. See, there's certain people that were meant to be pillars. You know what I'm talking about? They're just pillars. They're going to stand there for 40 years. They're going to sit in that same pew at church for 40 years. They're going to be dependable. They're going to be faithful to that church for 40 years. They're going to finance the church for 40 years. They're going to be faithful in the job for 40 years. They're going to make the wheels of industry turn by their 8 seconds a day, 8 hours a day. 8 seconds, every 8 seconds, they're the assembly line people, and God has set those. But then there's this interesting passage in the New Testament that God has called out some to be leaders. Now, there's only a few of us. It's not everybody. Some people can't understand it. Some people can't understand your need to be a leader. Some people can't understand your need to be different, your need to lead. And I think God called Elijah to go by the brook, sit there for a while, and hide out because he had something better for him, something different, a challenge coming. He had a challenge coming. And, you know, if he would have sat in the presence of the king and the king and him would have started playing solitaire and, you know, everything was good and they start playing cards together and, you know, the king decides, hey, it would be nice to have the prophet on hand for some divination work and all that. I'm going to offer him a salary, going to get him really comfortable. And God wanted him to run and hide from there, get away from there, go to by the brook, and then the brook one day dries up. Now you can go without food for days, but you can't go without water for a long time. So you got to have water in your system. So when the brook dries up, what do you do? What do you do when the brook dries up? Okay. Obeying God doesn't mean that the brook won't dry up. Did it mean that Elijah had sinned? That he was out of God's will? That God was displeased with him? No, 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 no. It meant that God had another place for him, another plan. It even meant that Elijah was put his trust in God, not the brook. You know, a lot of times we put the trust in the brook. We put the trust in the things. We put the trust in the money. We put the trust in everything but God. So God instructed the prophet to walk 100 miles, 100 miles north to a city named Zarephath. Now you have to understand that Elijah said to the king Ahab, if you back up with me a little bit, all this stuff, Elijah said, it's not going to rain till I give word. This is how connected to God that Elijah was. Elijah could call rain down from heaven. In fact, he called fire down from heaven on Mount Carmel. He was not to be trifled with. I mean, this is how connected to God he was. But this is how surrendered to the higher will of the universe that Elijah was. He didn't do things prematurely. He did things systematically. And if God told him to walk, he was going to walk. And he walks 100 miles. I have a hard time walking to the bathroom, guys. He walks 100 miles north to a city named Zarephath. Where he would find a widow who would provide for him. Now, wow, you think I'm going to get a widow? She's got a big life insurance policy. You mean? Well, I'm a widow. This is what's going through his head. A widow's going to provide for you. Well, wow, a widow. Don't have to contend with the husband. Don't have to worry about that. She probably got a life insurance policy. You probably left her a big inheritance. He gives up everything he's got. The Brook. He's not really bringing much into this relationship. And he gets there to find out she's down to her last loaf. She ain't got nothing either. It's amazing. It's amazing how this story is panning out, but how much reality this story has for all of us. It is so crucial for all of us to be understand that this relates so much to us. Here we go. The end had not yet come for the widow or her son. Elijah said that if she would bake that bread for the prophet, in other words, give me some first, take care of me, that God would take care of her by causing the flour and the oil not to be used up until the day the Lord gives rain on the land. The widow obeyed. The miracle happened. The flour and oil did not run out, and Elijah had a place to stay in the widow's home. Two, when Cherith dries up, God prepares a Zarephath. Can you see it? The widow and her son had food to eat. They did not die of starvation. Elijah had a room and a bed, and the prophet had someone to talk to. He even had a little boy to tease. After some time, I can hear the prophet say to the widow, the best thing that happened to me was when the brook dried up. See, when your brook dries up, guys, when your brook dries up, doesn't mean that it's over. But get ready. That was a blessing to see the miracle hand of God come into that widow's home. And now she's got food for her and her son and the prophet to eat. And then all of a sudden, you know what happens? The prophet goes on. In the midst of these miracles, the widow took sick and died. He died. The widow was beside herself with grief. She blamed the prophet. She blamed God. This was too much. You know, you have to understand that whenever you are going through things, times of difficulty, times of trial, times of testing, there's going to be one in your immediate situation, maybe you, that it gets frantic, gets angry, gets mad, beside herself, does blaming, doesn't understand, has a hard time realizing that I don't understand why these things are happening, but has no peace. No peace. See, there's a passage in the Bible that says, be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. Don't spend your time in worry. Don't spend your time in fretting over things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can. But by everything, with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. But there's a peace that says, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to do what I need to do today. I'm going to do the things necessary today. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't have the answer, but I know one who does. And I know that he holds my hand. And I know that he will get me through. I know that he'll see me through this. I've questioned everything up to this point. I don't understand everything. I don't have to. I'm his child. I've surrendered to his will, and I'm just trying to trust him. But it may be time for you to move. It may be time for you to move, especially if you're still stuck in sand at that brook that has already dried up. You haven't even got to the next miracle. There's miracles that await by trusting the move of God in your life. There's a verse in the Bible that says that God has set the lonely in families. I can't tell you why. There's this unending desire in me to help transform lives of people, especially when I have every reason under the sun to give up on everyone. Because if I give you the list, you'd be like, what the heck is he doing? Wasting his time with people like us. Seriously. But I can't explain it. This is what I was put on earth to do. Is to be an encourager, to be a motivator, to be a shaper of destinies. And trust me, I'm going through my time of testing right now. Trust me. It's not over. It's not over. So Elijah took the little boy up to his room and laid him on his bed. He prayed earnestly to the Lord 3 times. Thrice he cried out, O Lord, my God, let this boy's life return to him. God heard and answered his prayer. Breath was given back to the little lad. It was a miracle of resurrection. The grieving widow and her living son were reunited. There was rejoicing. There was a celebration. A miracle happened. What a turn of events. God is greater than, you fill in that blank. God is greater than where you are. God was greater than Ahab. God greater than the brook, greater than the dead boy, greater than anything, anyone. That's the truth I need you to hear. You need to hear it. I don't know what's happening in the circle of your life, but I do know that God is greater. So go ahead and write it out. God is greater than. You fill in the blank. Whatever it is, whoever it is, doesn't matter. God is greater. Today I declare that unto you. God is greater. Greater is he that is in this world, in you, than he that is in this world. My God shall be faithful to complete that good work that he started in you. He will never leave you or never forsake you. But sometimes God may be getting our attention, and it's one thing after another. You keep getting sign after sign after sign. Isn't it time that we decide that we try to make a difference, make a change? And change is hard, my friend. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not just easy, but you cannot keep turning back either. So, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you today, and may the Lord be gracious to you and bring peace to whatever situation you find yourself in. But trust me, he will not allow you to be tempted or tried beyond what you are able to bear. But when you are tempted, he will provide a way of escape. Have a great day, my friend. God bless. And again, if you feel that this message today on this Sunday morning of the new year has helped you in any way, please consider making a donation to paypal.me/successhappensnow.com. Again, paypal.me/successhappensnow.com. And you can give whatever amount you feel in your heart if it was worth anything to you. I'm in your corner and I'm rooting for you. Take care, guys. Have a great day.